Welcome to another episode of the Bantu Boyz Podcast. Julian is terrible. I'm one of your lovely hosts, Aziz Awisa, and I'm here with, go ahead, Mr. Chikuna, please. Introduce yourself.
I was Julian Chikuna, one of the Bantu Boys, and very excited and happy to have you on board.
Yes, very good. And then, of course, our manager, the guy that takes all of our money.
Hey. I give y'all 10%. I mean, what y'all complaining about?
10%? We're supposed to give you 10%.
Hey, look, if you get the money first, then y'all not going to take care of it, right? I got to, the ins and the outs and the outs and the ins. I got to take care of that. You know what I'm saying?
But you look suspicious, though.
hey, Julie, yesterday he was, him and Ashley were shopping for groceries. And I was like, they were at a real good grocery store. And I was like, oh, that's where all the money's gone.
Hey, look, Whole Foods, man, only the name brand. And even then premium. I can't. Ralph's, peasants. You know what I'm saying? But
food for less too. Black people, all the grocery stores where black people are, we always get the food that's about to rot. But that's another discussion. But we're here. We have a very, very special guest. I'm very, very impressed. Young lady, Yaya, Masi Abiso, or Mosi Abiso. I don't know how to say it. One of our women. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey, y'all. My name is Stella Safari.
Hi, Stella.
Hey, y'all. It's so good to be here. So I'm the founder and CEO of a clothing company called Zapenda. I'm Congolese, obviously. So what is really special about my clothing company is that everything we make is made in Congo. So we have our own production facility there. I'm from Bukavu, Eastern Congo, so I was born and raised there.
Bukavu represent.
Represent. And so I, left when I was younger and because of the war and all that stuff. And so I think like many of us have always been very motivated to give back to my country and represent it in a good light. And so, so I saw a need and an opportunity really to start this clothing business and capitalize on this moment that we're having around, wanting to be reconnected to our roots. I think many people in the diaspora are kind of experiencing that right now. And also the vast, amazing talent that we have in our country. So, what I do is basically just bridge the gap between those two things. So
that's impressive. Wait, before we get into, your last name was really Safari?
It really is.
Hey, which I didn't know. Safari is actually Swahili, right?
Yeah, Swahili. But it's like her last name was really Safari. Like, get out of here.
You'd be surprised how many people think my name's Stella Safari. Like, I just made it up. I'm like,
no, right. I'm just reading it right now. I was like, wait, Stella Safari. I was like, is that a rap name? Because that was like a dope rap name. Safari. Okay, that's dope. Okay, so wait, what languages do you speak?
Swahili, French. I understand Lingala. I've been to Kinshasa before. It was fine getting around by myself. Mm-hmm. So Lingala is like, I could use more practice. I think I just need to be around more people that speak it regularly. I also am actually learning Mashi, which is my parents' which I guess their tribal language, right? So my grandmother used to speak it, and that's mostly what she spoke, and that motivated me to want to pick it up. So I've been learning that. It's really hard, but committed to learning it.
Because I know, Julian, you're Baluba, right?
Baluba?
Right. But Julian Baluba, and me and Patrick are about Congo, but I know our mothers are from the same tribe, and they speak, it's like Congo, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I want to learn it, but it's just like, I don't even know where to start.
I know.
There's not like a school. You just have to be around it.
I know. So the way that I'm learning is really what you're talking about. It's so funny because it's actually my tailors who teach me Mashi because they're older, like a lot older, like my parents' age. Some of them could be my uncles or aunts, right? So, just casually they speak each other, of course. And so when I'm in Congo usually and I'm working at the shop, like they're speaking it all the time. So I start to pick it up, But it really is one of those languages I don't know if I could just Google translate it. Like I'd have to really
Right.
be people who speak it to pick it up.
Yeah, that's not an option when you go to like the U.S. Embassy for languages. That's definitely not an option, like to translate. I'd like sometimes get shocked when I see Lingala, but
yeah.
What the name of your company? Can you pronounce it again?
It's Zapenda.
Does that mean anything?
So I actually made that word up, right? And I made it up. It's derivative of a Swahili word, mapendo. And if you know what mapendo means, do any of you know what mapendo means?
Mapendo?
Heard it. Don't remember what it means.
Nope.
No? Okay. So mapendo means love. And it's actually also my sister's name. It's one of my sister's names. So I, honestly, when I was starting this, I really wasn't like sure what it would become. It was kind of something fun, and I had a full-time job and doing other things at the time. So I was just kind of doing it out of my love and passion for clothes. And so I liked the word mapendo because it meant love. I like the letter Z in a brand. Like, I think that sounds really good.
Z is a rated alphabet, by the way. I love Z. My middle name is Aziza. A-Z. Okay. Fire. I love it.
It's great. I just think it looks amazing. Like, so I was just playing around and came up with this word, and I thought it sounded really good and easy for a lot of people to pronounce. So
Zapenda.
Have it.
Hey, okay. Before you gentlemen ask her a question, hey, wait. That's why that's one of the reasons why I like the name Zaire. That Z. I'm trying to tell you.
That too.
Yeah.
I think I'm low key, like, as well.
Zaire is out of the map, Mileko. So please.
Y'all too hated. No, you guys go ahead.
People commit hate crime. Well, not hate crimes. What is it? What are they called? Crimes against humanity? Whatever. Fuck Mobutu.
Yeah.
Short version, man.
Exactly.
I stand by that.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.
You're right.
I know I'm the buzzkill, but hey, yeah, man, we still messed up because of that stuff he did.
I know, but you know what? I think that we have to really figure out how to, like, I grapple with our history. I have like a love-hate, not hate, but more frustrated relationship with Congo, right? Like, I've been active in things that involve Congo since I was like in middle school, high school. And I think trying to like create positive change in Congo can be sometimes really, really frustrating just because of all of those things, like what Mobutu did and all of that. But, we have to still find ways to like own our history and reality and find beauty in it. I've actually been studying Mobutu's fashion lately.
No, let me tell you something. His fashion is flawless.
Yes.
It's really that. Oh, me and Julian have a, what do you call his hats?
What is it? But yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Toque.
Is that what it is?
I mean, that's the French word, la toque en léopard.
Okay, yes.
That customly made, like, oh no, his fashion was ahead of the. It was so fashionable, especially for a president, an African president. People don't realize he was looked at for like head of fashion amongst the like during the independence among African leaders, like Kwame Ture. They were all like, no, Mobutu's fashion was like, oh yeah.
Congo has been like that for a long time. Like we've fallen on some hard times, but for a long time we were a trendsetter and a leader in so many things across the African continent.
It's funny you bring that up because growing up here in the States, whenever I was in college, anybody that was older than me, when I would tell them I'm from Congo, you should see the look in their eye because they know our history. Yeah. With the younger ones, they'll be like, I don't understand why we're so like, but it's like, okay, it's not an accident Muhammad Ali fought here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not an accident. You have to like really think about that and why we got our independence. Like, we were one of the last ones, but think about how hard it was for us to be like, when are we going to give them their independence? Like, it's too, we're very significant.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Patrick, go ahead. Julian, you guys go ahead. I don't want.
Hey, Julian, it can be you and then me. So, Baleko, Julian, then me. We'll do the order.
Okay, let's go. I have a question. So fluently, you mentioned that you speak French and Swahili, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way, because I know it's not easy to maintain the language. You know.
And to be honest, my language got lost because I came to the U.S. when I was 8. And I forgot how to speak Swahili for some years. Not like I forgot it, but you know how it is when you're a kid. Like, I learned English really, really quickly. And so I don't know. I think somewhere in my brain, like, you know, and I wasn't around a lot of Swahili anymore because I was in school most of the time. So it took me, and you know, back then, like, WhatsApp and Zoom, like all this stuff is not really around for me to be keeping in touch with people back home. But once like the technology really started to advance and Facebook and all this stuff became a thing, like reconnecting back with my family, I started speaking the language again, and then going home, like it all just came back to me. But you know, for a while it was like a struggle. And even now, like I live here by myself, and so I have to, I'm so grateful. One of the reasons I'm grateful for the work that I do with Zapenda is that I get to talk to people in Congo every day, which is really awesome. It seems like a small thing, but for me, it really makes me feel like I'm there. Like even being able to speak the language every single day, like it's a gift, you know?
It is a gift because it helps you. It just helps you, you know, it helping you like just to stay connected to the roots.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's better blessing than that?
Yeah, us doing the Bantu Boys by, you know, when you said you forgot Lingala, it's funny because it's like, oh, bless you. There's this thing where, I don't know if there's this thing that talks about like learning, like linguistics in the brain, like what it does to our brain. Like when you learn a language before the age of 13 or before you hit puberty, it'll always be in you because the way the brain is able to like absorb the language. But it's once you hit puberty, the different chemicals in your body and stuff like that, it makes it very difficult to learn a language. That's why they're like, when you're a child, speak to them in the language, even though they might not respond. It'll always be like in them, right?
It's in there,
so
right,
it wasn't because if it wasn't for the Bantu Boys this past year, I probably wouldn't have spoke this much Lingala. I spoke more Lingala this year than I have in probably the last 5 years combined.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really powerful too, you know, like for us as this newer generation of Congolese people, especially not being physically in our country, like to continue to do these things that connect us back to home, you know, in ways that are feasible for us. So for you guys doing this, like it's something that you're doing naturally, but also like it's keeping that connection, you know? So I think it's so important for us to continue to do this and support each other in doing it, because it really strengthens our connections to our roots.
Absolutely.
Pat, manager, Crook, go ahead.
So for my question, so obviously just a little bit about your background. I know you mentioned you came here when you were 8, and from what I understand, you grew up in DC?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. And then from DC, and from what I understand, it's a little bit interesting because you didn't grow up with your parents, you grew up with your sisters, from what I understand correctly?
Yeah, so my father passed away when I was pretty young in Congo.
Sorry to hear that.
And thank you guys. And then, you know, we were pretty comfortable in Congo. My dad had multiple wives, and so he, you know, I have a big family in that sense. My 5 sisters are not the only ones; they're just the ones who I came here with. But basically, you know, once the war broke out, and I remember a bit of that, but I don't think I experienced really the worst of it. And I was just so young, like I don't. You know, to me, it wasn't as, I don't know, I didn't have as much of the context to really interpret what was going on, right? So my mother was a school teacher, and when I remember we were still going to school, and then at some point, like, the rebels attacked our school, and we more. So it was like, okay, this is getting too serious. Like, I think the line for my family was when school became endangered, you know? And my mom was like, there's no way, like, you guys have to go to school. You have all these girls, like, I have to find a way to send you to school, because, you know, like, if you don't go to school, you know what the other trajectory is going to be. Like, you know, at some point, we're going to have to marry you off or something, you know?
Constitution, rape, all that other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So really, and I don't even remember all the details, but I just know there was a lot of like amazing, miraculous circumstances that came together for us to be able to leave Congo when we did. And that's how we ended up like moving through or going through Rwanda, going through Cameroon. Like the journey itself was so long.
Right.
Like almost a year just to get here. And so, you know, through all of that, thank goodness my sisters were there, and I'm the youngest, so, you know, they're older than me, so they're able to take care of me until we got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Journey, yeah.
You know, I'm just lost for words, like, because the war happens, you're in the rebels. Like, this sounds so funny. Isn't
it crazy? Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember out here, I came home from school like 15. No, I was like 14. This because the war was in 97, right? That Second World War or Second War, right?
It was so
sad. Yes.
I mean, it was like because I live in Bukavu. You got to remember, Bukavu is right on the border with Rwanda. Okay?
Right.
So for us, things didn't just start when things got bad officially in Congo. It started from way back when the genocide in Rwanda was happening, because
94
the border so they can just kind of cross. Right. So that's when like the insecurity really started for us. So it was kind of a gradual, like, okay, things are kind of, you know, bad, but not that bad. Like, we can still go to school. You hear gunshots, but you can still make it. And then, you know, isn't it crazy? I know, it's really crazy. And I actually, you know, the older I get, the more I'm like, as a country, like, we have some serious healing to do. And I'm telling you, for me, like, I left when I was 8. And, you know, there are people who I know who stay there. My friends, you know, I went to some people, elementary school. I still know them until today. And I can only imagine what they went through. They didn't get to leave, you know? And so, like, it's just interesting to think about all of that history and collective trauma, really, that our country has endured. And I haven't gotten too many opportunities to even speak about this, you know, with Congolese people, but I feel like that's work that we got to do for real.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's like another like podcast we could talk about, like, how does Congo heal? Because it's like you're only bringing up a war that's 20 years ago, but what about colonization, right? And then who dealt with, because like our parents lived through colonization while it happened, and then independence. You know what I mean? So that's a lot. But I guess but that's a whole nother podcast or episode. But I guess let me ask you this before we go into the break. So tell us about your background, how you got to like Detroit. Like, how did you get into grad school? And
I actually have never been to grad school.
Okay, so you're a fan. Okay.
So, like I said, grew up in Maryland. Have always just been smart and hardworking, and so I graduated pretty top of my class in high school and got a full scholarship to go to Dartmouth in New Hampshire. So, you know, couldn't turn that down. So I went there and it was amazing. I mean, that was like a total game changer for me. I think you can understand why. Like, an Ivy League school has all kinds of resources and opportunities and opportunities for exposure. So that was a really transformative time for me. And, you know, it's so interesting because when I went to Dartmouth, my goal was like to to study Congo. I wanted to study Congo. I wanted to study more about like, why is this happening in my country? And as you can imagine, like what happened when I was younger shaped who I am, you know, like my whole journey is shaped by like the experiences that I've had. So a lot of the choices that I make, I think have been informed by that. So even in the things that I ended up studying, I focused a lot on women's studies, African studies, very specific to Congo. Because of that, I ended up going to Congo a few times on Dartmouth's dime, which was awesome. So I used to do a lot of my research in Congo, and that's how I actually met a lot of the people I work with now, because I was looking at a lot of these NGOs and the work that they were doing in like post-conflict regions like Bukavu and, you know, the East where I'm from. And through that, I started seeing this like trend of these sewing programs and things that were, you know, these things that were so similar, and I wanted to kind of see what's the effectiveness. And eventually I realized that, you know, these programs are awesome, but people are looking for jobs. Like people need jobs. It's great for them to have like a training program or, you know, be given whatever thing that some program is offering. But at the same time, like people want to feel dignified and want to feel proud of, you know, the money that they get and the food that they get, and they want to work hard. So I saw that as the gap. And then I graduated from Dartmouth and was like, oh, I have to get serious about life now. And, you know, and that was like the message I was getting from around me was like, okay. And I had a math degree. They're like, go to Wall Street or go work for a big bank. And it didn't really feel right to me, but I don't have a place to go back to Congo yet. So that's how I ended up coming to Detroit, because I saw that this is a place I can work and work that's meaningful, but also like build my career and have impact and learn things that could be relevant for when I go to Congo. Yeah.
That's interesting, because when you were talking about your background with like women, and you said you study women in gender studies. Is that what you studied?
Yeah. Yep.
What like, how do you think with your clothing line, how would that help like with women's confidence? Because like when you go to certain regions like that where there's like war torn, people's confidence is so low. Like their belief in like just even to exist, it's so low. That's one thing I've noticed. Like when I talk to people in Congo or whatnot, Bantu boys, like they're more impressed of like kind of like my brash, you know, like how brash I am.
Yeah. No, I understand. And every time I go to Congo, I mean, less and less now because I'm kind of used to it, but it was a culture shock for me too. Like I left Congo and then didn't go back again for like almost 12 years, you know? So, okay, to your question about, you know, how I went into women's studies and what's the relevance there and the work that I do now, I think that it's actually interesting because I wrote my whole thesis on like, if I could do this, like this is how I would do it. And then now I'm like actually having the chance to do it, which is really fascinating. But this is part of my philosophy and why I decided to make Zapenda a for-profit business and not just a nonprofit that gives away money to these women, is because I saw the difference, right, in confidence level, you know, worth, all that stuff, when they can make something and I give them money for what they made, because I'm like, what you made is valuable. This is what you deserve, right? So like, there's a sense there of, oh, I made that, like I earned it. It's not just about being given something, you know, and it's a subtle thing, you know, because I think also in our culture, a lot of people, you give them something, they'll be so grateful, which is great. But if you really study it in the long run, like those things that really empower people, the empowerment comes from them feeling like they can do something useful, right? And for its worth, money is one way to prove worth, and so if I can validate them through saying that, hey, you have a talent, you earned this job, like I'm not just hiring you because you're a woman in Congo. No, like you have the skills that are required, and people buy this because they like it. They don't just buy it because they feel sorry for you, and so that's really important to me. And I am constantly working through like how to communicate this, how to represent it, how to represent the people that we work with. But for me, it's really important that I give them a certain level of autonomy and give them the opportunity to like earn things, if they choose to.
Yeah, and I would say that that's definitely great because as a practical part of it, and Baleko, June, I don't know if you guys have the same experience, but you hear the horror stories of people back home working jobs 6 months, a year, not getting paid. So
it's ridiculous. Still until today.
Yeah. So for you doing that, you said, go ahead.
Even in the government, unfortunately.
Yeah. So if you have something where it's like, hey, the money isn't tied to here, it's somebody from overseas, so I can guarantee you will get paid.
Yeah.
It's a godsend.
And it's based on how hard you work, we get paid based on the things we produce. And I've just seen it in the people that I work with. Like I said, they're not necessarily super young. Like these are people who I have so much respect for just from the fact that they are older people who can be my aunts and uncles, right? And, but I have seen them, a couple of the women that work with us are single moms. And one of them came to find me when I first started working on Zapenda. And I was like, I don't have the budget to pay you. But she was like, listen, I work for it. There's nobody else to help me, And then now looking at her and her kids, this is the money that she uses to send them to school. She takes care of other family members. It's like, and I'm telling you, I go there and see her, like, she's like taking me around. Like, it's not the same person anymore who came like kind of begging for a job, I think that there are things in life, and I try to instill this in my company and that I'm creating. Like, I tell them, like, dress up, like, feel, yourself look good, and I want you to, because you deserve that. It's not just, I think there are these things that are kind of essential to being a human, right? Like, we can all laugh, we can all enjoy beauty, we like music. Like, I try to incorporate these things into the workspace as much as possible so that I can all remind them, like, yeah, using this stuff for people in America, but you are also worthy. If you want to wear it, you can wear this stuff. Like, if you, whatever it is, like, it's all accessible to you as well.
That's incredible. Like, you get to help out with people's ethos. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, Julie. Go ahead.
And who are the tailors you work with, and how did you connect with them?
Great question.
Yeah, that question. So right now I have 5 tailors. Okay. So the way I connected with them was when I was in college, actually. So when I was doing my research, my projects or whatever, would go to Congo to do my research for maybe a couple of months at a time. And through that, the projects that I was observing, a lot of them were sewing projects. And so I met people through that way. Eventually, I graduate, I move, I'm doing my own thing. But a lot of the ladies kept in touch with me because, every now and then I would go visit family or whatever. And so whenever I would come around or someone would come here, they would send me stuff. Like they'd make me something and send it, right? And so one time, like, you know, actually there's this one guy, many of you were at this Congolese conference that happened
in New York, September of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you guys there?
No, we're good friends with one of the co-founders.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I saw her. Okay, yes. So, but anyway, I bring that up because one of the people who was on the panel at that conference, he came from Congo. His wife is production manager. That's who I work with. I met her through him because we've worked together before. So, you know, and also Bukavu was a small-ish community. Also, I come from a really big family there. So it's not so hard to know people and to have people kind of know you. But my main crew came from my research that I was doing years ago and had no idea that it would take me. But they, you know, they would make me stuff and I would just be so amazed because they hadn't seen me in years, but they'd make something and it fits me. And so as I would wear my clothes, people would be like, where'd you get that? Where'd you get that? And eventually I was like, you know what? Like, you know, on one hand, I have my tailors like always knocking on my door, like, hey, in case you have work for us, right? Just in case, you know, is there any opportunity? Because they're always looking for opportunity. And they knew that that's the work that I was doing in Congo. So they always kind of viewed me in that way, even when I had no capacity to do anything. And I have to say, like, I think I don't know, maybe you guys would be surprised if you had asked me maybe 3 or 4 years ago, like I was on a totally different trajectory. Like I was into like venture capital and that was my thing. And I did not think at all that I would be starting a clothing business, let alone in Congo. Like I was the case. Really, I responded to this need that I saw and also to the tailors constantly kind of encouraging me and putting this thought in my head, hey, maybe there's something here, you know? And it took a couple years, but eventually, like, I was, let's just try it out and see. Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick, we're at 33 minutes. Do you want to take a break or?
Oh, we're good. I took care of that. We don't have the time limit no more.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Patrick. You got a question.
Okay. So for my next question, just wondering, because you mentioned earlier about having an investor. So I was just wondering, how did you fund Zapenda?
Yeah. So, it's so interesting. So I come from that world, right? Like before starting Zapenda, I was running an accelerator program. I worked in venture capital since I moved to Detroit. Like that's what has kind of kept me here for a while. So basically, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but it's kind of like Shark Tank. Like that was my job, like to find, you know, new business ideas. And I worked for a fund, meaning we had a certain amount of money from investors and our responsibility was to, you know, distribute it, invest it in company. So it was always on the lookout, doing all of this. And because of that, I met a lot of investors. I just knew how that world operated. And, you know, when Zapenda was started, I started Zapenda with like, I actually didn't even really start it with a lot of my money. I started the way I started.
OPM.
So this was my thing. I was like, because again, I work with businesses a lot. So I was like, I wasn't seeing the opportunity quite clearly. And I also think because, you know, when you're used to something, like I can get these clothes. So it wasn't, I didn't quite understand that there are people, a lot of people out there who don't have access to this, right? Like, and who can't get it so easily. They don't know a tailor.
They don't know Macy's. There's no Macy's. Yeah,
exactly. And so I wasn't seeing the opportunity too clearly. So I was like, okay, I'm going to test this out. And what I did was I was like, I'm going to take pre-orders, okay? and see if there's like a market for this. I don't care if it's my family or friends or whoever. So I just posted on Instagram. You could probably find this post on my timeline somewhere. But I when I got to Congo, I had these fabrics. I went to the market, found these fabrics, and was like, hey, would anyone be interested in getting things made while I'm here? And I kid you not, y'all, just off of that one post, I made enough money to repay myself for the trip. Yeah, like I had way more bags than what I ended up, what I went there with. So it was clearly like, okay, there's something here. It was way more than I expected and way more than I can handle. So I was like, okay, that's a good sign. I started, and I always just kept doing that because we make our own things. I don't have to buy things up front. Okay. Right. So I have someone order first or pay something first, then we make it. Mm. And because of that, I'm able to kind of like control my cash flow a little bit. Okay. So that helped a lot in starting, because I would always like, get the money up front and then use it to produce. So for like 6 months or so, and eventually it's like as the clothes come here, as they get here, people start wearing them, people start seeing them, other people contact me, and it just kind of continued to spread like that until I would say last year. Mm-hmm. I was still working.
And how many years into the business was that when this next checkpoint came or milestone happened?
Like 6 months, maybe 3 months.
Wow.
Or so. Yeah, all this just started. Like Zapenda is not 2 yet. Like we're almost
not even a baby.
Yeah. So I was really just doing it like very, I don't know, like very low budget, low resource. Like I wasn't spending a lot of money, Yeah. My thing in my head, my equation has always been like, make enough to cover my costs. That's it. Like that's always been the thing. Make enough to pay the tailors, make enough to pay shipping, to pay all of this. And that's that. So I was doing that for a while. Then I started getting invited to like do pop-ups. I was invited to like a hair salon to do a pop-up, and a boutique, and especially in Detroit, really, really community. And again, I've worked with so many people here who businesses that network I started tapping into, and then I think last year I took a trip back to Congo in November. And at that point I was like, oh my God, this is getting so real. Like, there are people here now that like really work with me full time, and they really take this seriously. And it's hard not being on the ground all the time, right? But when I'm there, I totally feel the magnitude of what I'm doing, especially in Congo, because I can see it, I can see my tailors, I can see their kids, I can see all of this. And I think I had a very, I don't know, sort of like an aha moment in November of last year. And I was like, I gotta do this. Like, if this is what I can do with like half of my attention, imagine what I can do if I fully dedicated myself to this, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what I've always wanted to do. Like, my heart has in this type of work. And so because of that, I came back determined to leave my job and to start.
Quit your job, people. Quit your job.
And to start, accepting my call to like really follow my true path. And it was very intense, y'all. Like, I really had to go like within myself and really think about like, because so many people, believe it or not, discourage me from doing this. Like, and listen, I feel like it's not, maybe it's not malicious. They're helping, right? But especially, and some of them are Congolese. A lot of them are Congolese, actually.
Wait, the haters or your customers?
No, not my customers at all. If anything, they tell me to keep going. But it's like, family, friends, whoever, who are like, Congo, why do you want to go back to Congo? Like, why would you leave your, job here in America and all of this to go?
Why would you not leave Detroit? Beautiful Detroit. Come on.
Hey, there's opportunities in Detroit. There's some opportunities.
Absolutely. It's a lot of opportunities here. But some people just don't see it. And unfortunately, some of those people are people. And that sucks. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cut out the noise and just make this happen. And so part of that plan for myself was like, if I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to need this. I'm going to do this. I just wrote it out. And then I started shooting my shot. I knew investors and I started reaching out to them. Mm-hmm. And then it just started working out. And I got, I did this one pitch competition with this potential investor who is, they're part of a program that I participated in before. And I did that like not expecting anything at all. And I ended up winning that. And I have some other off of pitching Zapenda, and it was so amazing because it's like, yes, because it was like a room full of like non-Black, non-African people, and I didn't know if they would really understand, what this was, but they did, and they totally supported it and wanted to see it continue. So. So that's kind of where we are. I mean, I have, I also got this bigger production facility in Congo, right before I left, which is another reason I wanted to increase our capacity a little bit, which means we'll probably be able to hire more people. Okay.
And just wondering, do you own that facility, the building, or are you leasing it, or what do you?
No, so the first place that we were in was actually just rented. It's almost like a house. It's a compound, right? Like it's gated. I wanted something pretty low key because the Congolese government too can be kind of tricky with so I didn't want them to really bother us. So it's kind of off the street. Yeah. It's a little bit hidden. So it just looks like a regular house, but it's more like a production place. But that was our very first space that we had. It's not that big. The electricity doesn't always get to it, all of that. So I was there during the rainy season and really started to see how inadequate that workspace would be after a while. But really, if I'm being honest with y'all, I found this landlord, okay, when I first was like, okay, let me try out this idea. I found this landlord in Congo, and I told him what I was working on, and he's like, I like what you're doing. And I was like, I need a place to do this. And he said, okay. We negotiated up until he gave me this spot, maybe $60 a month or so. He's like, you can guarantee maybe 6 months worth of rent at a time.
$360? Jesus.
Okay. I was like, I don't spend that kind of money on shoes. Okay. So let me go ahead.
I'll write the check right now.
And so I was like, and that's the thing. It's like the universe was kind of, all these things were kind of working out in ways that I really could not say no. I'm like, okay, someone's offering me this cheap space. Let me just try it out for 6 months and see what happens, right? And my thing was, and my agreement with the tailors was, hey, you guys, and I never asked them to work for me full time, by the way. That's a decision they came to on their own eventually. I've always been transparent with them. I'm like, look, I'm trying this out. I'm not making millions of dollars, so I don't want to mislead y'all to think that, work is always there. I'm building this company.